This is technically non-canon, but I'm going to be including feats in this video just for fun with Lobo having the mask. So in this video, I basically covered the mask from his Dark Horse comics, and another version that's technically not canon is the Lobo and the Mask comic book, which is technically not canon to this one. Two different versions I basically covered in this video. I kind of mixed them together just because of his wacky nature. To where Lobo even put this mask on himself. A reality warping mask like this mixed with Lobo's godlike strength. This is just a terrifying combination. He literally put his own eyeballs in the gun chamber and shot his own eyeballs in a violent fashion. Can you imagine just simply putting on a mask for cosplay and you literally get super strength, super speed, and powers? There is this mysterious mask unlike any other. One could say it's almost better than finding gold. Some people get so obsessed with it they take it to their grave. Like literally put on a mask and it solves all your problems when it comes to injuries and etc. Did you know that the mask has comic books? There's been a lot of mask users over the years, but the user itself kind of becomes irrelevant because all the power literally comes from the mask, because whoever gains the mask gains great power and a green fade. You can put the mask on somebody that's unconscious and it will take effect. If you are injured before putting the mask on, you can simply put the mask on and your injury will literally go away instantaneously. Removing the mask by force ain't gonna work, buddy. When you're wearing the mask, you're immune to poison and stuff and they don't take effect, but when you take the mask off, the poisons start to take over again. The mask is literally a living being and has a mind of its own, so that's why telling about how strong the person underneath or telling who the person underneath the mask is kind of irrelevant, because it just powers you up when you put on the mask. The mask is the power. Implied to be able to move of its own, like how it surprises the person. There's times when the user of the mask has some control of their self, but sometimes it can just take control of you completely. It can make you violent over time too. And if you just give into his influence, you just grow more dangerous. And can just straight up alter the perception of the person wearing it. Like look how you see like in this loony world. If you take off the mask but have recently worn it, it can affect your dreams still, even if it's off of you. But it does appear as a separate entity in the dreams. It keeps like a mental link between previous owners and it can still talk to them even when it's not on that owner no more, like on these occasions. But for unknown reasons, it would not work on everybody. I guess the mask chooses who it wants to work on or not. It feeds off the subconscious of somebody's inhibitions or their deepest desires. While he does seem gaggy, he does effortless strength stuff like pull this woman in the air with chains, bites through this guard's armor, putting him in metal restraints ain't gonna cut it because he can just literally break out of the metal restraint. Seem to throw things very hard, strong enough to charge through and break through doors, strong enough to tear apart planes. Hey Batman, this large vault he can lift over his head with his strength and y'all ain't ready, and can toss it with one hand, just like the rest. If a crowd of people is in his way, goofing around playing football, he can just ram through them in a sadistic way, just charging through them. Yeah, he's nothing like the movie counterpart, more of an anti-hero or straight up villain one could say. Bites off a man's fingers and then spits him out like a Gatling gun. Wooden floor, he saws it all. Tosses an anvil with one hand. The weight varies. It can weigh from 75 to 500 pounds. Strong enough to push over a large building, making it crash into other buildings. The mask caused a massive destruction. For the most part, everything looks effortless. He can pick you up with one arm. On plenty of occasions, he does stuff like this. He or she, depending on who's wearing the mask at the time. It's just easy for the mask when it comes to powers and just strength. This dude dressing up in different outfits, looking all flashy, lifting up manhole covers. Stupid machines, he can literally rip the arms off of them because he's just strong as heck. Can literally lift cars. This massive piggy bank that's bigger than him, he can still lift up. The leg strength to leap on different buses and dent them and jump to the next one with leg power. Bust through these barred windows. Yeah, bars on them. Consistently charging through walls. And if you got a sniper scope, he can just rip it off. Even if you're strong enough to tackle the mask through a lot of stuff like that, mask can say, get the heck off of me. Look at the dent. Lobo and the mask actually had a comic together. Notice how DC and Dark Horse both on a comic. And he can even make himself strong enough to even box it with Lobo. Like, no, literally got boxing gloves up, like boxing it with Lobo. Having like a little tornado fight, like the Toon Force little cloud of fighting. Like, bruh, he still seem to be trolling him too. Lobo punching him in the face and he's just trolling. Rubber Man, huh? His head, he tries to pop it off, tries to sling him around. It doesn't really threaten his life, really. Crushes him even when he starts growing back. He's still able to fight more. Got this vehicle. The mask is shown strong enough. It's shown that it can kind of bite him and damage him. You see the blood from Lobo and this little fun crossover. If you're wondering why you see in Batman characters or even the Joker, there was literally a Joker and the Mask crossover. He has size manipulation. You get an idea of his power just from the sheer size he can create himself to be, becoming the size of a literal building. It doesn't seem like the size of a normal sized building either. The building seems pretty large in comparison to other buildings. Some buildings that can weigh up to 500,000 tons. It's fair to say thanks to his gaggy nature, he's stronger than people like Batman. It's just a fun crossover comic stuff. Notice how he shakes shapeshifts into different looking outfits when the freaking Joker had the mask. I mean, he is strong enough to punch through a man's head like that. He can chop through a large tower with an axe. Strong enough to hit a baseball hard enough to go through a mob of men using an axe. Can chop cars basically in half. Casino tables get sliced. I think it's safe to say he can increase his strength when he wants to. Like getting massive too. He can yell so hard to make you into skeletons. When it comes to the amount of energy he can produce, when he was Lobo mask, I know when Lobo had the mask, he can produce massive nuclear type like explosions just with energy he can just produce on the spot. He can summon a miniature car, a motorcycle, a monster truck, a flying broom, a whole bunch of balloons to allow him to float, a flying boat, guns that he can make himself fly through the air with. What the? Can shoot himself out of a submarine, a pair of rollerblades and dogs to pull him, can create a tank, a jetpack, can pop out of the toilet. He has super speed, like dodging shotgun blasts with ease, just trolling. Even though he has a crossbow and they have guns, he can fire faster than they can shoot him. Completely avoids gunfire here. Several men try to grab him and it ain't gonna work. While in the same vicinity, you can dodge all of this stuff by literally trolling and they're shooting all at the same time. You can kind of create a miniature tornado with speed, try to get the jump on him, and look how fast he can just grow or shapeshift and just eat you and bite you that way. He'd like literally imprisoned inside of his mouth, and then he's there inside of his own mouth too. Like, bruh, who's fast enough? It implies a blurry type of trail, kind of showing, yeah, he can use super speed. Look how the writers are implying that. One could say this is teleportation, like how he's surrounding these people this way while also shooting and blitzing them. He can make a car he's in, make the car itself very fast. Notice how he's outside here and he is suddenly right here next to the woman before anybody knows what's going on. The mask kind of reminds me of a Franklin Richards mixed with Bugs Bunny, aka Looney Tunes. One could say Toon Force mixed with Lobo and the darkness and grittiness of that stuff. All in one. Does he have reality warping or Toon Force? Or does he have both? Weird reality warping stuff, him being able to make Lobo eat his own words. Seriously, can anything really hurt this guy or really damage him seriously to where his life is in danger? That's why he's gotta have some form of reality shaping to give himself extra durability via shape shifting. He's had his own limbs torn off and just can reattach them with no difficulty. Even if his leg is disconnected, he can just reconnect it. Yeah. Having his eyes popped out of his socket. Part of this is probably gaggy moments. Losing his foot, for example, literally starts sprouting from the foot. Like, what? Got smashed and recovered his entire body in an instant. Large pistol shots in his head. Got his chest blown open. It doesn't seem to matter. Nothing seems to threaten his life. 2 swords impale him and he's okay. More proof that he has reality warping, how he can change his durability. Sometimes stuff can pierce him, like knives, bullets and stuff can actually pierce him, but then other times he can give himself extra durability to where bullets just straight up bounce off of him. When they usually pierce his skin, but they just don't really harm him still, he still regenerates, but this time it didn't even pierce his skin, it just bounced off. In this occasion he does so as well, just becomes completely bulletproof. Implied he can just change his durability to straight invulnerability if he wants to. That's why I say reality warping or Toon Force. This is another occasion of him actually making himself more durable than normal, like getting shot by Lobo's guns. He just ain't doing nothing. He did get his heads chopped off, heads as in more than one. Just grows it back instantly, guys. Bullets can sometimes pierce him, but then all of this, people with rocket launchers, he's just like, really? Like, he could just make his durability better. As he got directly hit by a tank, and he's like, hey, he was blown into a pile of ashes and was literally good. Explosions that are extremely large, bigger than building size explosions. The mask is like, oh, just because the explosion was this big, destroys a chemical plant big, that don't mean it's gonna take me out because I'm the mask. Gunshots to the chest, and he's good. Getting lit up by a barrage of bullets. In this occasion, he decides to let the bullets actually pierce him, but it doesn't really threaten his life. Shotgun blast. A couple of Lobo's grenades exploding in his mouth. The guy is literally blown into ash, turns into a ghost, and takes the guy out physically. Then later got his physical body back. And he was this giant ape he decided to turn into. This dude Lobo put too many nukes inside of him to blow out. This gigantic explosion, which is this wide, he still doesn't really seem to be threatened. In this fight, they both like literally are just ahead at this point and they're trying to fight each other. They're fighting each other this way now when they're both heads. The mask even says, I don't have the hassle of waiting for a new body to grow. Regenerate faster than him. He then continues to kick Lobo's head away like that. Him and Lobo ended up being friends. The mask is unaffected by lethal poison, as long as you're wearing that doggone mask. Even electrocution won't cut it, or being caught in fire won't cut it. Even having his face melted by lasers won't cut it. And the mask is insane. Being able to be awake with a hole in their chest. He can choose to let stuff pierce him or choose to not let the bullets pierce him. You can get a good idea of how powerful he is by the things he can create. He literally made this into an actual gun that can actually harm you. Imagine having the reality warping power to turn an actual balloon into an actual gun that's actual metal. Of course, he can make himself be able to kind of float, like stopping on the spot, or stop himself from falling. I mean, one could say reality warping is just one word for saying every power known to man to some degree. He even made this dude's cigar into an actual bomb. Just casually chilling with a hole in it. No big deal. They tried to scan his fingerprints in databases. His fingerprints looked like iconic monsters. What a troll. They even say, how the heck? He turns a guitar into a battle axe. He can make other things bigger, not just himself, like throwing these dice and making them big. That big. He even turned his disembodied head into a bomb. He gave an ordinary microphone the ability to contact the military. They even say, oh my God, that's an active military code. Pour so much chocolate syrup into a woman's mouth until she explodes. Like, that's dark. He reads an alien's mind. So he has psionic and telepathy type stuff too. Appears in 2 places at once. This guy's aiming at him supposedly, and then he's looking like, yeah, aim this way. Like, bruh. Lobo in the Mask Fusion, he made miniature versions of himself come out of his boots like an army of himself. He can change his appearance whenever he feels like it, like whenever he wants to, peeling off the layer of skin and the mask is underneath it. In other words, he can make himself look normal and not have a green face if he wanted to, but he chooses to have the green face show most of the time. Here's another example of him being able to change his appearance at will if he wants to, not just a green head. This occasion stretches his tongue, blows up like a balloon, inflates his deflated leg. Look how fresh he is in this outfit. He wants to get extra heads, he can just get extra heads. And this is either speed or he can just grow additional arms. Extra heads. Joker had fun with this power, like turning his hand into an anvil. Can make his teeth very sharp. Like when he was Lobo Mask. Them teeth though. He turned into a gorilla to imitate King Kong. Make himself look like a wolf. Melts into a puddle that reforms like it ain't no big deal. This guy got the power to create a portal to just go to another universe if he wants to. Dude, it's just silly. This dude drunk gasoline, swallowed a lit match to make himself breathe fire, imply to be able to use heat vision, like using it against Batman here, breaking the shotgun with the blast power, and he can shoot blasts from his hands if he wishes while armored up and bulky. Legit turned into like his own Superman copy to the point where he even has X-ray vision. He's bulletproof where the bullets don't hurt him at all. What's it like to be a character like this and not be aware of the fourth wall, aka talking to the audience? So when it comes to the mask, when it comes to his raw power, he can pretty much do what he wants to via reality warping or Toon Force, give himself any superpower technically. There hasn't been really any established clear limits. Seems to have enough power to knock himself out, briefly at least, or damage himself if this is to be taken seriously. It's hard to take any of this stuff seriously. And what's his true limit? At the very least, when it comes to destructive capacity, he seems to be able to actually change himself to actual building size things and has the strength to literally push over buildings without even changing to his big size. But just the fact that he can push over buildings and they actually can turn into the size of a building kind of concretes the fact that he has the strength. Everything he does, it's a troll, it's a gag. We don't really have a clear set limitation for sure, other than seeing him temporarily knock out himself. When he wants to get harmed, sometimes he can choose to be harmed and then just regenerate, or then sometimes he can just choose to not literally be harmed by bullets at all. Seems like normal weapon can do this to him at times, but then if he wants to, rocket launchers like this, or a pile of different guns or weaponry, can shoot him at once and it doesn't even damage his clothes he's wearing sometimes. And then there's times where bullets literally just deflect off of him. He just says he's invulnerable just straight up and just give himself superhero powers and even a cape. In this occasion, again, is a bullet bouncing off his literal head, when other times it actually pierces his body when he wants it to. So he can turn his durability up and down. He can at least punch apart multiple buildings with ease in Canon. But when it comes to his full power and limitations, it's unknown, but I don't want to just assume he can produce stuff on a universal scale if he hasn't shown doing so. It's definitely a possibility, we just haven't seen him do it. That's when it comes to flashy stuff. Flashy stuff being him actually pulling a solar system, him actually lifting a planet. That's what I mean by flashy stuff. There's definitely implications he probably could, just because we don't know his limitations. So it's best to say at least, not most, at least he can punch apart multiple buildings in Canon. Full power, he could possibly do more, even punch apart a town, punch apart a city. It's just a lot of assumptions at this point though. But he definitely has reality warping on a smaller scale at the very least, without us knowing his actual limitations. But what's stopping him from pulling out a super nuke out of absolutely nowhere and blasting you with city-shattering force, right? What is his limits? Could he just create a nuke on the spot if he wanted to? Could he create a miniature sun on the spot if he wanted to? Just a lot of uncertainty. What's the limits of him just being able to create stuff out of absolutely nowhere? It's like one of those things, just because we haven't seen him do something doesn't mean he can't do it. It's like a 300-pound man that's just naturally, genetic-wise, a big man, muscular and thickness-wise, has never bench pressed 300 pounds, Even though he's never done it, that doesn't mean he doesn't necessarily have the strength to do so. He might have just never had a chance to go to the gym or something like that. You know what I'm saying? I'm thinking this is kind of how it is with the mask, but I can just only speculate at this point. I'm not the writers. Don't blame me. How powerful are these random guns that he can just randomly create out of the blue? What's his limit? But hey, that could be just me. What do you guys think? But I would also like to give a quick shout out to everybody that took in the time to donate to the channel. Helps out a lot, believe it or not.